Kingy, you woke up this morning. What were your first thoughts?
First thoughts this morning. I'm just looking at the Melbourne Footy Club this weekend. I think they're the biggest, for me, the biggest story. Brodie
doubt.
Grundy back in and Clayton Oliver returns. So how they use their stars, where they use their stars, how their forward line looks. What do you do with Oliver? What does that do to Petrarca? I think they're the one that I'll be focusing on where they spend their minutes.
Yep.
And how effective they are.
How it
this week.
affects Gorn, all that. So I think the biggest, it's going to be the biggest talking point on Monday. I mean, if they win and it goes well, probably not, and they get away with it. But it's going to be fascinating and intriguing as we're 3 weeks out from finals. You often speak about getting your team set in the lead up to finals, the runway and that. So this is potentially disruptive. Now they've been forced to do it with Petty's injury. I wouldn't have gone with Grundy. I would have gone with more of a dedicated forward.
Who?
I
don't have one.
Well, I would have probably gone with Tomlinson back and Smith forward. I know he's not a key forward, but he's a better forward than Brodie Grundy.
I think they're biding time until Tom McDonald gets back.
Yeah.
And he'll probably be that target. Not many teams are unchanged this week. I think it was only Carlton had no change. I know they've got a few to come back, but really good time to be settled, isn't it? What hit your little beady eyes?
There's been a lot of outstanding performers this year, but with outstanding performance comes extra scrutiny, and I think it is Errol Goulden's biggest test. So,
why is it his biggest test?
I don't think he's been tagged yet, and I think it's coming, in a big way. Sydney have won their last 4. They're in good form, and he's been the catalyst behind that. His ball use is as good as anyone in the comp. He can kick it long, he can kick it short, he can kick goals. And Took Miller's coming hard. He's fresh off a break after the real squirrel grip where he held on tight, and he's going to hold on to Errol as tightly as you wouldn't believe.
You reckon Errol's got to be ready for that?
And my prediction is Errol under 20 touches this week on the back of
under
Took
20.
Miller. Under 20.
You've gone too far with the tag.
Under 20.
I read your article this morning. Your article saying
having a big impact.
No, there's a big comment in here. There was a big comment you said that if clubs don't have a tagger on their list, this is negligent list management.
I agree. Do you disagree with that? You've got 44 list spots. Clubs are happy to carry fourth-string skinny ruckmen who aren't going to play for 3 years, but no one carries a dedicated defensive midfielder. Surely you have to have someone on your list that can play that role, and clubs don't. And I do. I think that's negligent.
Yeah, but your poster boy for this at the moment, Finn McGuinness, he doesn't play every week.
No, it's not just.
So even his own club doesn't pick him.
Yeah, but it's not just. Yeah, but that's to the point. It's horses for courses. But you've got to have someone to deploy when you need them. So Finn might not play every week. If Hawthorn play, I don't know, Melbourne, and there's not a matchup for him, then he plays VFL. But if they play Port Adelaide and they want to put him on Zach Butters, you've got to be able to inject that. So that's sort of backing up the argument. You need to have that lever to be able to pull. Some clubs don't have it. So love what Fremantle have done with Young. It's not going to be every week, and some weeks he'll be back. But if it's Lachie Neale, and Lachie Neale's the only one in the Brisbane midfield that can get you, put him on him. I just couldn't believe Richmond and the amount of room they gave Bontempelli last Friday night. It just blows my mind.
We tried to tag Bont. Bont's been tagged for years with no success.
No, well, Callum Ward did a pretty good job only a fortnight ago leading into that game. So I disagree with that. I think it's an absolute.
Well, it's less than a 30% win rate when you've tagged Bont.
Well, we'll find out, won't we? Because it's timely.
Well, not on one given round this week, but you've got to pick your poison. You've got to pick the player that you think you can get. Like Dacos, everyone's talking about Dacos. He's played 40 games of footy. He's 20 years of age.
But everyone said he couldn't get him.
Well, he was tough to get. Yeah. I mean, Lachie Jones tried to tag him for Port. How'd that go?
Yeah, not great, but they won by 7.
Not great.
But it's not to say you can't get him, and it's not to say it's not worth having a try at getting him. I just think you got 44 spots. You're going to carry players on there, probably 7 or 8 that aren't going to play. At least have someone in mind if you need someone to play that role. That would be my point on that, and we'll see. The other point I've got, Kingy, Oh, in fact, let you go. You go first. You want to speak about Nathan Murphy?
Yeah, are you surprised that Nathan Murphy's made the lineup for the Pies tonight? Like the way it finished last weekend, I thought, gee, he's going to miss a month of footy, and then all of a sudden he's up and running around on the training track, and he's flying.
Yeah. He has been.
Have I missed something?
Well,
Here?
he has been exaggerating contact a little bit this year. I hope he hasn't been exaggerating injuries.
Well, I mean, if there's any grey area, he doesn't
Don't
play.
play.
Yeah. Especially after Nick Dacos actually said that he entered last weekend's game sore in the knee. I was surprised that they would take any risks with Nick, but you would think it'd be a no-risk policy from here on in, wouldn't you?
Well, they're going to finish on top, so there's no.
Are they definitely finishing on top?
Yeah,
They have to win 2.
Yeah, I think they will, but first or second, it doesn't matter, does it? I don't think.
That's true.
So, anyway, Pies fans, do you think they should be resting Nathan Murphy? You can have your say on that. We'll get to Steve shortly. And just finally from me, I did note the under 22 squad. It's a bit of a mouthful. 22 under 22 side. The AFL Players Association revealed that. So it's essentially the best players under the age of 22. If you are not in the top 8 and you are not represented heavily in this team, I think it equals trouble, Kingy. So there's a couple of teams that I'm looking at. West Coast didn't have one player nominated 22 under 22. Red flags everywhere for that. If you're last,
You're finding new ways to just go after teams down the bottom.
if you are last
This is
and you've had access to high draft picks and you don't have, and I know West Coast is a little bit different. They've only had 1 year of access to high draft picks. I get it. But if you're not represented there, I'm going.
They've had one.
I'm going. This is trouble. Because how are they going to compete with?
It's just another way to get stuck in the teams
it's
down the
not.
bottom.
No.
All you're doing here is finding another avenue.
Well, don't you think it's important? Like if
think
you're in the
as a
bottom
20
six, if you're in the bottom 6, your only hope is what youngsters you've got coming through, isn't it? And if you've got
but
none,
isn't it easier to play in a better team? Isn't it easier for a 20-year-old to roll in? It's easier for Horn Francis to play better football at Port Adelaide than it is at the Kangaroos.
Yep.
There's no doubt about that. So clearly you get to showcase your skills, you get more opportunities in front of goal, you get more opportunities to be more damaging, you get less responsibility week to week. You actually can just go and play. So I don't think it's absolute.
But if you're Richmond, and I'm going, well, I had this big argument with Caro on Monday night about Richmond. She's in love with Richmond's young players, and I'm not, and she thinks I'm a Richmond hater. But then on this 22 under 22 comes out, and you go, okay, you're pitting your hopes on Samson Ryan, like they got one. Whereas,
Gibcus.
yeah, Gibcus will.
I'd be pitting me hopes to Gibcus.
Well,
absolutely.
hopefully, but he's played a handful of games. There's a question
Well,
mark
they're under
there.
22. They've all played a handful.
I know, but he's not nominated in this because he's injured. But so if you're pinning your hopes on Gibcus and Sonsi, and that's it because you got no draft picks, then there's a concern there. Whereas Fremantle, okay, I go the poor year from the Dockers. But the core nucleus of the group of under 22s that they've got, and Clark and Jackson and Sarong and Young and these players, you go, okay, a Jai miss. There is a group you can build around.
I've watched Carlton. I've watched Carlton have pick one after pick one after pick one. They would have been represented in the 22 under 22 every year heavily and did nothing for a decade.
So you're not concerned that if you are outside the 8 and you don't have exciting under 22s, you don't think that's an issue?
Not a glut of them. It's to me, it's not the be all end all.
No,
Clearly,
but it's a warning, isn't it? Surely it's a warning sign.
warning for what?
Well, your future. If you're West Coast and you got
You reckon
no
the
one under
AFL
22,
Players Association 22 under 22 is one of the great guides in modern football?
no, I think it's an indication of where your future lies and the core group that you've got coming through. I look at Melbourne.
All right.
They got Melbourne have got 4 players, plus they've got Fremantle's pick. I'm going, plus they've got the group of experienced stars around them. I'm going, gee, Melbourne are going to be around the place for a while.
I'm going to go and get the team from 3 years ago,
Yeah.
4 years ago, and we'll have a look who's still
Do it.
actually playing. Give me. I'll do some research during the break.
You do that. I'm just saying.
Denver Granger Barras might have been captain.
Geelong have got 3, and the core group that they've got and the success that they've had, they've got Jai Clark. I'm going, okay, the Cats are in good hands. And I think Richmond and
Jai Clark.
well, he's a pick 7. There's a big raps on him. He's been injured. I'm just saying they've got Tanner Bruin, they've got Ellie Henry, they've got De Koning, they've got Holmes. It's a good group of young players to be able to give you some youth to surround them with the experience that they've already got. 1300 736 736. What were your Friday first thoughts? Jim is in Doncaster. What's your first thoughts, Jimmy?
Yeah, g'day guys. Well, interesting. I'm going to agree with you on one, Kane, and disagree with you on the other. So, talking about a designated tag, there's a lot of Tiger, and I'm a Tiger fan. A lot of Tiger fans will remember in the 90s, we used to have a guy called Nathan Bauer who used to get a game every so often. Every time we played West Coast, Peter Matera was playing. You needed somebody to be able to run with him. And he always did a fantastic job. They'd bring him out just about every time and give him a crack at Matera. And Matera was like rock and roll football, and he'd do a job every single time. It was kind of like, it was a lay down misère. But secondly, in regards to the 22s, Kevin, I kind of agree with King. I think you've got to look at your 25s, mate. Your 25s are your next 7 years. I mean, if you're talking Tigers, you've got Baker, Bolton, Hopper, Taranto, Bolter. I mean, there's 5 absolute guns, and you're talking about giving away drafts. I mean,
but that group hasn't got them, Jim. That group.
Hang on. We gave away Hopper and Taranto. For Hopper and Taranto. But the year prior to that, we took 5 in the top 30. So we invested in the draft the year before that.
And how are those 5 going, though?
Well, we're not going great yet, mate, but that's what you're asking to go to the draft. I mean, you never get guarantees in the draft. So you're saying don't get Toronto and Hopper and go to the draft. Well, we did the year before that. And you're saying we should do it again. Well, we did that.
Yeah, no, you did that with your top 30s, but you're going to get the gold in the top 5 or 6. And that's what you've given up, Jim. And the group of 25's excellent, a good core group, but it's got you to 13th. They've all played, and it's got you to 13th. But
You're in a bit of trouble here, man.
Oh, am I?
Just had a look at the class of 2019. This is just one. I've just gone one bit of Google. That's all I've done. In the class of 19, the Cats didn't have any. 0. And they won a flag last year. The Tigers were represented with Sydney Stack. That's it.
Yeah, but that was
2019.
But the Geelong's strategy was different there.
Isn't that the point? That you don't have to be represented in one area.
But they have.
There's many different ways to skin a cat.
But I think it's a warning sign that if you're West Coast and your whole strategy is to rebuild your footy club by going to the draft, and you've got no one, and you've won 2 games.
They've had one draft. They've got Ruben Jimby, and that's it.
I know. That's the point.
They've had one draft.
That's the point. They're in all sorts.
There's no Collingwood in 2019 either.
Let me do.
I think this is one of the worst guides you've ever presented.
You've plucked 1 year.
That's all I've done. Exactly. I've just plucked 1 year. If I do more research,
young players aren't important. I can't believe that you're coming on the radio telling me that young star players are not important.
No, this is your topic, mate. You brought it up. You said the 22 under 22. If you're not represented here, big trouble.
Sign for your future.
I've given you the premiership favourites for this year and the last 3 premiers, and they're not represented at all.
You've gone 1 year, and
that's all exactly. I've done one. I'll go again. Do you want me to go again?
Young players aren't important.
That's not what I said. I've never said that. Of course they're important, but you can't say it's one of the great guides.
No, I said it's a warning sign. I didn't say it's one of the great guides.
I asked you as a question, do you think this is a guide? You said, absolutely. You've got to have this bloke, this bloke, this bloke.
It's definitely a guide of your future, how many good young players you've got.
It's not a list assessment at all.
It's a guide of how your future is with how many good young players you've got.
It's a fan's popularity vote.
So don't ever talk about North Melbourne's young players again then, because they're not important.
Mate, pick 15 of them in the under-22 team, and I couldn't care less.
Don't talk about Wardlaw
Doesn't matter.
and Sheasel and all the youngsters they've got.
I'm looking at the All-Australian list.
I don't want to hear North Melbourne fans talking about that because you're saying young players aren't important.
I've never said that. You keep banging on that. Use your ears. I'm not using it as one of the great guides like
No, I said it's a warning sign. I didn't say it's one of the great guides. It's a warning sign how many youngsters you've got and how exciting
it has
they
no
are.
relevance to success for teams. None.
Not immediate,
0.
Not immediate success. But
not a skerrick
go
of evidence.
Go back to Melbourne when they had Oliver and Petrarca coming through and tell me that's not important. Go back to Richmond when they had Cochin and Revolt and Martin and tell me that's not important for the future. Like, ridiculous. Of
Martin
course.
had his Potters for about 5 years.
Yeah, and then he came good and he wins 3 Norm Smith medalists.
Cochin had criticism for 8 years.
That's the point.
But that's not your point. Your point is you're saying
young players that come through together and win your premierships.
We disagree. We're going to have to agree to disagree.
We often disagree. Kingy, I'm just a little one, okay? Just a little in the gun.
Spud gun.
Yeah, just a pellet gun.
Pellet gun. What do you got?
Well, is there any danger Is there any danger of Matt Rao getting more than 20 touches, Kingy? Is
this
there
kid.
any danger? You're a full-time midfielder. Because you say that, this kid, like we've all got some sympathy. Why are we easy on Matt Rao? Is it just because he's likeable and we really respect the way that he plays the game and his nature? That is all true. That can be true, but it also can be true that he doesn't touch the football enough. So let me read you his numbers since round 12, and this is just pure possessions. If you're not getting 30 playing as a full-time midfielder in 2023, something's wrong. Round 12, 15, 21, 20, 20, 21, 22, 14, 19, 16. Is there any danger, Matt? I'm putting you in my spud gun. I'm loading up the pellets and the potatoes, and I'm saying, get me more than 20 touches.
Can I compare him to your boy?
Yep.
Who's never had more than 25? Never had more than 25. What's his last 6 weeks? 23, 16, 18, 11, 10, 13, 13.
2 years older. Matt Rao's 2 years old. He's been in the system a lot longer.
Right. Okay. So that'll change.
100%. And Horn Francis goes forward. Now read me his goals. Now read me Horn Francis's goals as opposed to Matt Rao's.
He's kicked 11. He's
Yeah.
hardly kicked 40.
I know, but he goes forward and he does actually look a threat forward.
Okay. Well, Matt Rao, I love Matty Rao.
I know you do.
And I've done some numbers on it.
I just think you're soft on him.
No, not soft. Nothing soft about Matt Rao and nothing soft about the feedback
nothing,
on Matt Rao.
nothing. I'm not.
Do you know?
Hang on, I didn't suggest Matt Rao is soft. I said you're soft on him.
He wins. I did something in this during the week, so I'm doing some contested versus uncontested footy at the moment. Right? Just working out who the hardest man in footy is. I could mount a case it's Matt Rao. The hardest man in footy.
I wouldn't disagree with that.
He wins.
I reckon Libba and Viney. I think Viney's the hardest man in football right now, Jack Viney. It's a good question for our audience.
That's exactly how it started. The hardest man in footy.
Yeah.
So I was thinking it was Viney.
Yeah.
Right? So I went and had a look at Matt Rao. Matt Rao only averages 20 disposals a game, but 64% of his disposals are won in a contest. I thought that's a massive number. The next rated player is Patrick Cripps at 55% those that get 20 plus touches. You've got to get 20 to be on this. Cripps is at 55, Dangerfield's at 54, Libba's at 53. So this guy is 9% higher than the second rated player in the competition, who have played. I mean, how much footy Cripps, Dangerfield, Libba played compared to this boy?
So, and it's a good case that you make, but I just keep coming back to, if you are playing full-time as a midfielder, 90% midfielder, and you're not getting more than 20 touches a week, something I think has to change to go to the next level.
So I think this is one of the reasons there's a coaching change there. So factor in the fact that Gold Coast, and even Port Adelaide, they're the 17th and 18th in the competition for disposals. So there's no junk. They don't get the uncontested marks. They don't get the easy handball receives or hey, if Matty Rao's free, let's give him the footy. They don't do that. But so a new coach will come in and there'll be a different methodology. If Matt Rao played at the Dogs, how many touches a week would he get?
Yeah, well, they all get a lot. But
So he's a victim of where he plays.
Yeah, I don't know if he's got that in him, though, because I look at...
What do you mean?
Anderson,
He's liver, isn't he?
But Anderson and Rao, and Miller, they get stacks of it. Flanders get stacks of it. Like, so they're still playing in a reasonably high possession team.
It's stacks. Do they get stacks?
Well, Flanders has had 30. Flanders would have had 30 at least 3 times in his career. I don't know if Matt Rao's ever had 30. Maybe once in his whole career.
Yeah, once, I think.
Yeah, so...
Just the once.
I don't know.
What's he played? He's played 59 games. Hasn't played a lot of
Give
footy.
me more than 20. Give me your 25 if you
When
have
will
to...
Horn Francis get his first 30, do you think?
Well,
I'll write this down.
He's just turned 20 years of age.
Yeah, give him 2 years. I'll give him another 2.
What do you have in round 1? 29 or something?
I don't know. No, he's never had more than 25.
Okay, well, he's...
So if he had 29, it'd be a stretch.
all right,
Can I
who's in
give
the
you
gun?
mine in the gun?
Yep.
This is a guy that's been a 3-time All-Australian. He's been a 5-time best and fairest, and he's won a Brownlow, and he is O-triple-F at the moment. Lockie Neal.
Give me O-triple-F.
Off. Absolutely right off. His last 4 weeks, he's averaged 21 disposals, which is 70th in the comp. He's had 18 score involvements, which is 123rd in the comp. So in that same period, Bont and Petrarca have had 41. So he's winning clearances. He's won 30 clearances, but nothing's coming of them. There's no damage. There's no breakaway anymore. So I was chatting with our man, or used to be my man, now he's our man, Hoyne.
My man now.
And he is now, over the last 4 weeks, he is rated on the 100x rater, so just comparing him 100 minutes averaged out as a midfielder in his position. He's the 284th ranked midfielder.
Is he out of your All-Australian team? Because Jono does his rolling All-Australian team with us on Wednesdays on Sports Day. He was still in there, which...
It's a mess. Jono's team's a mess.
I thought... I did
but that's
rate,
a whole nother discussion.
Okay. So you want to... well, this is my point on
Of
tagging,
course
though.
he's out. How can you be close to 300th in the competition and over the last month of football and be in the All-Australian team?
Well, this backs up my point. Now that... And who would have thought Ashcroft would have been so important? But they're coming hard for Neil. Miller's coming hard for Neil. Young's coming hard for Neil, and the impact on him and the whole of the team is significant. That's.
Yep.
I'm happy you put him in the gun.
So it's over to him now. Bontempelli does it. Petrarca does it. Fife's done it historically. Dangerfield's done it. You've just got to find a way to get through this. And I don't know if he's carrying injury, and I can't really factor that in. Okay, we've just got to judge what we see of a weekend. And the challenge right now, if they're going to be what they need to be, Brisbane, and we're talking to Swanee later on, they need Lockie back to his absolute best.
I like it. Put that on the radar. Put Lockie Neal in the gun. And I don't know if this guy's injured, but once again, we can't judge that. Clearly he's had some disruptions, but I'm putting Jeremy Cameron in the gun. In the gun, and I want to see an all-time performance tonight because he's due. 34 snags in his first 9 games of the season, 12 in his last 9, and MIA, missing in action. And I looked at the matchup that he had against Port Adelaide. He's going to kick 6 or 7 because it's Ryan Burton is the matchup, or it's Darcy Byrne-Jones, and he hasn't been able to get it done for whatever reason. Jeremy Cameron, so head knocks, head butted in pubs. I get all of that. I get the disruption that he's had to the season, but I don't care. You're on $1 million a year. Your team needs an all-time performance. Tom Hawkins isn't there. I'm putting you in the gun this week. Who's your final?
Can I put a small one on?
Yeah.
Minnie McWalter. If you want to endorse yourself as the next man at the Tigers, the next couple of weeks are massive. So you've lost to the. I thought he had to have an upset victory along the way, like what Stephen King did week 1 for the Suns.
Yep.
Lost to Melbourne by 32 points, lost to Dogs by 55 points. The next 3 weeks you got St Kilda, North Melbourne you'll beat, and Port Adelaide. I think he has to beat St Kilda or Port Adelaide. You've beaten St Kilda before. He's coached that game in round 14, won by 20 points. I think he has to show that he can do the job as a coach, pulling some different levers. I'm looking at the use of Shea Bolton. He has to be in at every centre bounce that Richmond are involved in. He has to be in. He's their number 1 centre bounce player. And the inside 50 differentials against the best teams have been blowouts.
Yep.
Blowouts. So I just putting him on watch. Have an upset win this week or in round 24 to guarantee yourself the job.
Stake your case. 1300 736 736 is the IMAR Insurance open line. We've got Matt Rao, we've got Lockie Neal, we've got Jeremy Cameron, and we've got Andrew McWalter in the gun. You can have your say on that. All right, you want to ask me a question about the seedings, because I do note...
Yes.
I do note yours and Jared Waitley's seedings on Monday.
What do you got? Just give me your top 4, can you? In order. So it's in order as you see it right now at round 21.
And it's not easy. And I don't envy you doing that on a Monday. I've gone with Brisbane at 4. Carlton
give me a little spiel.
Well, Brisbane, I think they should be top 2, but they're not in terms of seedings with what they've got, with the list that they've got. But I just don't trust them. To be completely honest, I don't trust Hipwood. I don't fully trust Danaher. I don't fully trust the midfield. I don't even fully trust Harris Andrews if he gets a good opponent. So there's just a lack of trust with Brisbane, but they do have everything there that they can to win it. I think the Blues are storming, and if they can get their reinforcements back, there is something about them with the momentum that they've got in the season and the list that they've got and the confidence and dare that they're playing with, how they're defending, how strong their midfield is. I think they're at 3. Collingwood at 2. I thought about having them 1, and they could easily be 1 for every reason that we've seen in the first 17, 18 weeks of the season. But I got Melbourne at 1. I got Melbourne as my number 1 seed. So Melbourne, Collingwood, Carlton, Brisbane. I think Melbourne defend better than any other team, and that's going to stack up.
I love it. Can we bring something new into our breakfasts? I'm going to have a peanut award for the day. Yep. And right now, 685 is leading the charge. 284. He says 15 players, 18 clubs equals 270. Maths is not my strong suit. Maths is my strong suit, and there's more than 18 players. 15 players, 18 clubs, you peanut.
What a Gary? I think Gary and Tim have the knob file.
Oh,
so
yeah, the knob file.
we're going to name it. Peanut's okay, but I think we can do better.